From humble roots to immense entrepreneurial success, Green Price's greatest strength remains its people. In order to continue on this path of success, it must foster a real sense of ownership in its culture and grow to become more than just a workplace. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vivica. I'm joined here by Natasha, William, and Michael. Together, we are Midnight Consulting. Today, we have been tasked with devising a strategy to help Green Price tackle the issue of staff turnover rates. And our analysis today has been informed by two key insights. Firstly, that positioning itself as a sustainable place to work is not just enough to attract the best talent. And secondly, that young people value workplace culture more than almost any other reason when choosing a place of employment. Our strategy today tackles three parts. Firstly, recruiting the best talent through a structured internship process. Secondly, retaining the best talent through an employee equity program. And thirdly and finally, preventing the loss of the best talent through a structured internal buddy system. Our strategy today will generate huge impacts with a 20% reduction to turnover rates, an increase of 32% to employee satisfaction rates, and finally, a 33% increase to the average tenure length of staff. Now, Green Price is uniquely positioned in the sustainable supermarket industry. And we see its unique value proposition to be twofold. Firstly, its ethical, sustainable brand. And secondly, its competitive pay rates. In order to really attract the best talent, Green Price must leverage both of these aspects when messaging to prospective staff. Now, through our root cause analysis, we've identified four key issues underlying the reasons for staff attrition within Green Price's current employee base. Of these four, number one, the lack of progression and lack of clear promotion cycles is the most impactful, however, requires some investment of resources to address. Number three, which is the lack of a visibly fun workplace culture, is what we see to be a quick win for Green Price to address. So what do young people really value when choosing a great place to work? There are four key things: pay, culture, progression, and job security. Of these, culture, we've identified, is the most important, the thing that young people care about most. But that's not without the clear visibility and communication of progression opportunities. Job security we see to be something specific to Green Price's brand and identity as a startup, and is something that is relatively less actionable for the company to address. Now, turning to where within the business Green Price should focus its resources first. Our analysis has shown that the office segment of the business is of highest priority, and this is because of the unique employee pain points in this part of the business. These employees in the office are highly educated, highly skilled, and highly well paid. What they value now is the opportunity to progress, take leadership opportunities, and really build out that longevity and tenure in their career at Green Price. This is what we see to be most impactful to Green Price's business, as the impact of staff turnover in this segment of the business is far more impactful than in the in-store counterpart. So why choosing the office first? There are three key reasons. On the in-store side, we see staff turnover to be an issue across the industry at other competitor supermarket chains as well. And this is largely due to the ephemeral and transient nature of working part-time at a supermarket as a university student. Secondly, We see fewer resources required involved in the training process for in-store staff, and therefore a higher impact to staff turnover rates on the office section. And thirdly and finally, from a quantitative perspective, the impact is felt more significantly from our historical analysis. So Tash, how can we lay the seeds for Green Price to really see success in the workplace?
Thank you, Viveka. So now we need to understand, in order to have Green Price as a thriving tree in the future, we need to firstly plant these seeds. We need to make sure that these seeds are valuable, as their employees are, that these are the correct seeds and the ones that are going to grow into the greatest tree. At the moment, Green Price is hiring recent graduates straight out of university. Now, when they're hiring these graduates, they're splitting them up between a hunter and a farmer role. These graduates are then identifying issues that have been identified previously, including the lack of promotion, a risk of career development, and also with the repetitive nature of work, as well as just the funness of an environment working at a supermarket chain. What we know is that while these employees are facing these issues, it's the lack of synergy that is the real key root cause here. If we can address the fact that these employees are experiencing these issues, but we can synergize the right employees to being Green Place employees, then that is where we can really make great uplift. And so we suggest the development of a Green Price internship program. The internship program gives Green Price the opportunity to seek out the right employees. And so we see the process as going like this. Firstly, a university graduate, like all of us here, would have the opportunity to opt in to this Green Price internship. They would already assume that they would potentially be harmonizing with the Green Price values, and this is an opportunity then for these employees to go out and definitely confirm that this is the right place for them. In doing so, they also gain very valuable careers on their CV, and they also have the opportunity to gain the skills that Green Price allows. These are the sales skills that hunters and farmers are so specialised in. Secondly, they would go about the internship and Green Price, and in doing so, they would rotate between the hunter and the gatherer role. As they do this, they would be able to understand which one they represent better and which one has more synergy with their values and skill set. This would allow them to then understand the processes of Green Price better, so that then if they were to find that this would be a good relationship, then they could progress that further into the future. So, thirdly, after the completion of the internship, there is then the opportunity for that intern to decide, and for Green Price to decide, whether that relationship is one they would like to continue. Well, both now know whether this is a relationship that is going to work because of a contingency in their values. So, there's also a second benefit to this internship program, the further development of firm culture. As older and existing staff would be able to have these new interns come in and would be able to train them up and converse with them, they have that opportunity to gain increased staff culture. We see this to be a process as follows. If the mentor can then train the interns, then they get the opportunity to develop their management skills. As a result, they then are more close to the recruitment process. And then as a final subset of that, they have a stronger sense of culture. So, Michael, now that we've planted the seed, how do we ensure that it grows into the future?
Thanks, Tash. Now that our seedling is planted, we need to retain these employees that we've obtained through the internship program and grow a tree successfully and beautifully. Currently, employees at Green Price are faced with the key issue where there's an existing sense of disconnection between themselves and the workplace that they work at. This looks like, for example, going to their 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and feeling like they're sort of repeating the same tasks that they don't find too particularly interesting. For example, facing clients on the phone all the time. They feel like this workplace doesn't provide them the sort of reward that they're particularly looking for in their early stages of their career. This has resulted in a high turnover rate of 67% of office workers alone in just 2022. Introducing our strategy, Green Connect, where crucially, we introduce the idea where we bring the feeling of ownership and bring that to the ultimate company culture. So, what does Green Connect entail? Green Connect involves leveraging equity ownership and providing a stake in the equity of the company as a reward to these employees. This, most importantly, bridges that gap and builds that personal connection between these workers themselves and the company that they work for now that they feel like they've actually got an ownership and stake in the company. This is provided through an opt-in program where employees have the option to exchange a portion of their bonus for instead to receive a portion of equity in the company when they get promoted. On the topic of promotion, let's talk about that now. Currently, employees within Greenprice, particularly these office workers, feel a lack of career progression when they work at Greenprice. Therefore, we tell you that Greenprice must crucially establish corporate ladders internally. Let's take a look at an example of what this would look like. Introducing Jimmy. He's a 22-year-old fresh out of university who's completed the internship program and now has started as a graduate within Greenprice. His job, to begin with, is a junior hunter. Give it a bit of time, and now he finds himself as a senior hunter, where he has the option to take part in this opt-in program to gain stake and equity within this company. He now feels that sense of ownership, and that contributes to the culture of the way that he views his workplace as a whole. Now, give it more time, and this is where things start getting cool. Jimmy finds himself as a hunter leader, and his equity within the company increases over time as he's given more options and abilities to increase and find more flexibility in this area. We also plan on introducing a vesting period. This is a period where specifically 2 years will be dedicated, where employees will have the stake in the company, however, will be unable to cash in early the stake. This is crucial, particularly when we consider retention for these individuals, as we want them to feel a continual feeling of ownership within Greenprice. So, let's talk about why specifically Greenprice is the company that is best positioned for this strategy. Firstly, Greenprice has a strong startup culture being founded by a CEO who is in the second year of university. That gives more opportunity to provide these sorts of flexible options for these workers to gain a sense of ownership. Secondly, Greenprice already exists as a profitable business, which indicates a high likelihood of future business expansion. This looks like, for example, increasing the amount of upper management individuals, or, for example, increasing the amount of branches all around Hong Kong. Thirdly, and ultimately, this leads to the likely outcome of an IPO occurring for Greenprice. This is crucial for these individuals who have a stake in the company because they feel like this IPO now directly correlates to their life activities. The overall impact of this initiative is huge and threefold. The first is that it drives incentives for these companies for these individuals who we've acquired through the internship program to retain and stay. Secondly, it minimizes training costs for these individuals, which is crucial when we particularly consider that these office workers are the ones who require the highest amount of training and thus are a more costly process for Greenprice. Thirdly, and finally, this contributes to the overall culture of ownership within Greenprice, which is so crucial for retaining these highly talented individuals. Now let's enter the third prong of our strategy, where we launch Green Buddy. Green Buddy works by pairing up workers within the same department, for example, hunters to hunters, farmers to farmers. We will now leverage the new corporate ladder that we previously mentioned to pair up individuals from senior positions to junior positions. And what this program will specifically entail is, for example, having fortnightly catch-ups over coffee where they're able to discuss possible issues or the way they feel about existing company culture. The impact of this is threefold. Firstly, it solves an existing lack of preemptive communication between these workers who work at Greenprice and the actual company when they decide to make that decision to leave. Secondly, it provides key insights for the company as they're able to pass this information to HR and senior executive members, which is key for Greenprice's future success. Thirdly, and most importantly, we promote a fun work culture where workers working in Greenprice feel like their actions can ultimately influence the way that they treat their workplace. So Tash, now that the seed has been planted, the tree has grown, how do we ensure that no bad apples exist on our branches?
Thank you, Michael. So now on the risks that we could see and also the means that we have to mitigate these risks. So the first potential risk that we have identified is a lack of opt-in to the equity program. This is mitigated through the idea that when one person opts in and then has an increase in that equity share, then that's going to be something that incentivizes other employees to then engage in that same process. Secondly, being a startup, Green Price has exponential room to grow. And so the benefit of having an equity share as opposed to the extra portion of their benefit is really much more significant. The second potential risk that we've identified is the lack of rapport between the mentor and the mentee. The mentor and the mentee program is important because there needs to be communication between the two so that we can identify the issues that might be present in Green Price currently. This will be mitigated through an annual report season where people can anonymously identify issues that are going on. Thirdly, we've identified the potential for time wasting in the internship program. However, given that the cost of having these new interns is lower than the cost of retraining or having high staff turnover, we also see this risk as being mitigated. So will you now walk us through our financials?
Thanks, Tash. To walk us through our financials, we must ask ourselves, how can Green Price implement these changes to improve employee satisfaction to the heights of the trees? But to do so, it must win two key must-win battles. So firstly, to ensure that employees understand the true value of Green Connect. And we will be doing so through excessive information provided to employees, really underlying its true value. Secondly, Green Price needs to use the insights developed from the Buddy program to inform how it changes culture within its company. And this is crucial in all aspects of our strategy. This leads us to our KPIs. Firstly, we've identified a quick win in the short term being a 65% opt-in rate in the first year due to this information being provided. Over the long term, the impacts are huge. Firstly, in 2024, we indicated that the turnover rate was 40%. By the end of 2025, we indicate that this turnover rate will drop by 20%. Net employee satisfaction would increase from a score of 56 to 88, a huge 32% increase. And finally, addressing the real question in the room, the average tenure would increase from 3 years to 4 years, a 33% uplift in average tenure. Green Price's success is founded on its people. But to implement these strategies, by implementing these strategies, Green Price can grow to new heights and become more than just a workplace. Thank you, judges. I'll open the floor to Q&A now.
Thank you to University of Sydney. Now we invite the judges to start asking questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Your main strategy in the recruitment part is to find interns and throughout the internship to find suitable candidates. So it takes some time. If we need to hire someone in a short period of time, how can we do it?
Thank you for your question. I'm happy to take that. So the internship program would look to hire people or to have people intern that are currently in their penultimate or pre-penultimate year of university. And in doing so, I believe your question is that, how would we do that? It takes a lot of time to recruit people in. So, there's a lot of AI systems that are happening at the moment. You can have an ad posted on any page and then just filter through those employees based on qualities like their marks and then have other buzzwords put in. So we believe that's possibly an AI that you could leverage in that case.
The question that I mean is that you need a lot of time to prepare, and to recruit interns, and throughout the whole procedures, and you take some time to observe them and to train them. But then the real situation is that someone quit the company, then we need someone on board as soon as possible. So how can we cater with these situations?
To clarify, the quitting was of the intern or of the
Of the current staff?
Of the existing staff, right. I think a very fair question, considering the HR resources within your company internally are not as extensive as perhaps a larger multinational. There are a number of ways around this that we see, the first of which is to rely on inbounds. We believe that Green Price is positioned effectively as a sustainable supermarket provider, and as such, it is a value additive thing to have interns who are interested and see their own values aligned with the sustainability efforts that your company takes to come first to Green Price via LinkedIn job posts or via posting on university distribution channels, be it in person or online. Given the relatively small number of staff currently within the company, we also think that this is good from a resource efficiency perspective, meaning your HR resources won't need to screen dozens and hundreds or thousands of applicants, creating a more curated and streamlined process, meaning that the employee, prospectively, as well as your internal HR function, can really get to know each other over a structured and intimate process, perhaps via informal coffees before following up with a more structured interview process. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you had some very kind of clear recommendations in terms of your recruitment, retention strategy, and you kind of concluded that you weren't going to hire anyone from the presentation over the age of 25. Why not?
So I think the internship program is going to recruit people who are straight out of university, who will most likely be under 25. But Green Price should certainly not be opposed to hiring someone who's over 25. One of the issues, though, is that a graduate who has a lot more experience is going to be, sure, more experienced, but they're also going to come with a higher price tag. And actually what Green Price needs is that level of internship and that training that then makes them a specialist in Green Price specifically. And so having a more experienced or older person doesn't necessarily give Green Price that greater leverage. And so while it would be most certainly fine for Green Price to have these older employees, it's not necessarily something that we'd be targeting right now.
And as part of your kind of tree strategy, there's the kind of the golden opportunity of an IPO. Obviously, the CEO's on the table. How did you conclude that that's part of their strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were able to conclude that an IPO was likely either in the near future or at some point in the future for Green Price, because we've seen that Green Price is an existing business that has seen profitability. More importantly, Green Price is a sort of market leader and has seen a first mover advantage, as they're the only sort of supermarket focused on sustainability in the entire continent of Asia. Their only competitors are located elsewhere, such as in Denmark or on other continents. Because of that, we think it's likely that given Green Price's existing success, that success will continue on to the future, and thus a likelihood for IPO, and therefore a more buy-in sort of idea for these employees to take part in the equity opportunity.
I'd like to press you a little bit. You were quite bold. You went straight to equity as a recommendation. Do you feel it really addresses... You prioritize the problems. Do you really think that equity would address the lack of motivation, especially when the idea of fun environment? So it sounds like the equity option. How many, such a large, 100 employees, is equity offered to everyone? Because I think one of your targets was 65% opt-in. Is that right?
Yes, that was our projected opt-in rate. Yes.
Right. Do you feel that 65% opt-in rate would really address the motivation issue necessarily?
So happy to address the motivation part of your question first, and then I'll hand over to Will to address the quantified part. In terms of improving motivation amongst employees, we chose equity, which, as you rightly pointed out, was quite a bold strategy because we felt that cultivating a sense of ownership was crucial to improving employees' sentiment and motivation. Given the circumstances and the job description of their day-to-day activities are unlikely to change in the near future, meaning our sales resources will continue to need to meet sales KPIs, and therefore it's not as actionable for Terence to adjust the job description of their specific role, meaning we had to look outside of adjusting the requirements of their day-to-day work in order to generate an inorganic form of motivation. So I'll now pass to Will to address the KPI part.
Yep, happy to address the part on the 65% opt-in rate. We do think that this statistic is quite bold, but we back this for two main reasons. Firstly, the demographic of who is going to be opting in and who are the people working at Green Price, which are young, educated individuals who have a passion for sustainability, but also are more financially educated. And the second reason is because of the information being passed around to employees through our program. So making employees aware of these benefits and the progression of the company is the second factor that we've also considered.
Will staff need to return the equity, or the company can buy out their equity like during their resignation? Is it a possible solution?
That is something that we would defer to you to choose. However, at our current stage, we feel that our equity program for employees is about, irrespective of whether an IPO is on the horizon for yourself and for your company, it's the prospect of cashing in on their equity that is what drives employee motivation. Meaning a number of case studies internationally at successful startups that have unicorned, for example, the likes of Canva, the likes of other successful startups, also have really seen employee motivation skyrocket as a result of successful employee equity programs. And so we feel that there is real value irrespective of your plans for the company.
Some startups outside will hide their share base, so employees don't really know what's the total number of shares issued, and by time to time they issue some more shares. So ultimately, to their experience, actually the staff don't feel anything like for getting some shares because they don't know like the portion comparing to the base. So how can this be solved?
Totally. I think a great example of an issue that we can identify early and prevent via the third prong of our strategy, which involves partnering with a buddy internally in order to create the infrastructure and the systems needed to have an open forum for employees to exchange concerns like the one you just identified. Meaning if an employee feels that this lack of transparency or visibility over the number of shares issued is something which is impacting the longevity and tenure of their career at the company, this is something that they can openly share to their buddy through our structured buddy process, which would then signal to you and to members of management that this is an issue which needs to be addressed and goes into the iteration cycle of our strategy.
Now, as the newly formed Midnight Consulting, you make all these predictions and you're very comfortable and confident making them. But which of your predictions are you most uncomfortable with and would you worry most about coming true?
Second last one. The second last. Sorry. Yeah. So firstly, I think the first metric that I'd really be concerned about would be net employee satisfaction. So we've quantified net employee satisfaction using 3 categories tailored to our 3-pronged strategy. So firstly, the Green Connect penetration. You go back. The Green Connect penetration. Secondly, the conversion of internship to graduates. And then finally, the satisfaction generated through the buddy program. So with this, it does not reflect employee satisfaction due to the weightings provided on the right-hand side of the table. So given the buddy program, given the insights we get from that, we'll be able to determine how these weightings should be adjusted so that it can be a better reflection of employee satisfaction.
So how can we attract more students to join our internship program, like competing with the outside MNC's internship program?
Sure. So one of the things that we think Green Price is really superior in is that sales training and having the opportunity to really be specialised in the act of cold calling. Even the people who are doing it at the moment know that it's still uncomfortable. It's not something that anyone enjoys doing every single day. And so having that experience to get a little bit less uncomfortable is something that is actually really valuable. And that sales experience is actually something that's been identified as one of the leading needs and qualities of someone who's successful long term, as it develops that real confidence to be able to put yourself in front of people like you.
We also see that there is some crossover between the types of students and graduates who are looking into MNCs and seeking employment via those means, as well as at companies that are fast growing and startups like yours. And one differentiating factor that we would propose you really underscore when you position yourself to prospective interns is the fact that there is an unparalleled rate of progression if you implement our strategies, as opposed to the relatively hierarchical and slower growing nature of the work and progression at a multinational. And that is something that we see to be unique to your business. We see a number of students now recognizing that trend. Hong Kong is a great startup hub, as are major cities across the world. And we think that now is as good of a time as ever to really act on that tailwind and attract the best group of talent.
I noticed the impact. It's a fairly short timeline, starting 2024 and ending 25. Obviously, ambitious targets. What happens beyond that? So at 26, 27, so you've halved the turnover rate. Very impressive. You can't further halve it some more. I mean, if you can, that'd be great. But what does post 25 look like across these three metrics?
Yep. Firstly, I'll address the low time frame that we've projected our strategy. So all three of the three-pronged strategy that we're proposing today has a very short implementation time and also attacks the problem and the issue, which is employee satisfaction, in a very fast pace. Could you clarify the second part of the question?
No, I think my main question was what happens after 2025?
Yeah, so, sure. So I think after 2025, once we've had these three initiatives implemented, we can really leverage all the insights we've gained from the Buddy program and really look at what are the further issues affecting employee satisfaction so that we can further drive down the turnover rate.
I think in an ideal case as well, the hardest thing for us to tackle is ensuring there is that first cohort of strong leaders, that middle management section within the firm. Once we've established that initial class of middle managers who are really proactive, really motivated, entrepreneurial, and see real longevity in a career at Green Price, from there on in, we see a real flywheel effect, meaning that the brand has positioned itself as a great place to work for young people who are aspiring to a career of entrepreneurship, meaning that word of mouth will spread. Young people will start to really see a value in forging a career and starting their career at Green Price. And from there on out, we see that the effects are immeasurable.
Thank you to the University of Sydney. The Q&A section is over and you may now return to your seats.